So there's this woman that I work with. I don't work with her. Where did that come from? I say the weirdest things. I record. I say the weirdest things. There's this woman that I interact with once a week or every other week. She rocks Baccarat 540, and you can smell her coming from a state away. Like, and no announcements necessary. You know that guy that was like in the King Arthur's court that would stand up and be like, "Welcome now." You don't need that. You don't need that with her. Baccarat does that for her. I like Baccarat 540, so I don't mind it. But I don't know how many sprays she uses, or if she just drinks it and then it's like sweating out of her pores. I don't know how she can do this, but got me thinking. One big pet peeve of mine is fragrances that do not perform. This is Bleu de Chanel. People consider its DNA to be some of the best. I agree. I can also agree that its performance is terrible, absolutely terrible. That is a $150 fragrance. This is L'Homme by YSL. This is the Eau de Parfum. I can tell you, $110 fragrance or something like that. I don't remember how much it is. $80 to $100, I would say, or more, depending on the size, obviously. But beautiful fragrance, and has some of the worst performance that I've ever seen. Performance matters, because if your fragrance is not performing, then you just paid $100 for a bottle, because no one's ever going to smell the fragrance. It's not causal. As it gets more expensive, performance does not automatically increase. As it gets less expensive, fragrance does not automatically decrease in performance. It just depends on the fragrance. Fragrance performance knows no dollar amounts, knows no brands, and doesn't even know any concentrations. All concentrations different ones I've seen perform great. I've seen EDTs outperform X-rates and so on and so forth. So what is performance though? How long does it last on your body? And what kind of projection does it give off? I've assembled a couple of fragrances, 3, 6, 9, 12, I guess 13 fragrances that are performance monsters. Note, these are my fragrances that are the best performers, not my best fragrances which perform the greatest. Some of these fragrances I don't even like, but the fragrance projects and performs so good, it has to be on the list. Some of these, most of these, if not all of these, I have literally scrubbed off my body, because after 8 hours, I don't want to wear them anymore. That's how good we're talking about. We're talking about fragrances that perform so well, I don't want to wear them anymore. There's stories to follow. Let's get into it. The first one that I have to say is from a cheap Cologne brand, and this is Milestone. This is Ambre Sun, but this is every single Milestone fragrance is an incredible performer. Taxco is a fragrance clone of YSL's Tuxedo. This is a clone of Ambre Sun by Dolce & Gabbana. These are EDP concentrations. I don't know why they perform so well, but they do. This next one is a designer fragrance. You'll see a lot of designer fragrances. They're not going to make this list. Niche houses aren't even going to make this one. They're more likely to. But the thing is, not everybody wants a fragrance that's going to last them 3 days. In fact, I would say most people probably are not going to. I almost smell like something for 3 days. So, while this is good, I certainly consider it as good. Because you can back it down. You spray 3, it's too much. Spray 1 next time, you know. I don't think a fragrance things too you can do to increase the longevity, but I would rather have a fragrance that performed too well and learn how to work around that than the opposite problem. So this next one, I didn't realize how much of a powerhouse it was till it macerated for a while. And I typically went nose blind to it. I didn't realize how good of a performer this was. This is Valentino's Born in Roma Intense. Granted, this is an intense version. That's an Eau de Parfum intense version. This is sugary, sweet, party fragrance, clubbing fragrance. Very much 1 million type vibes. Paco Rabanne easily would have this fragrance in his line as well. But for $110, you're getting a fragrance that will project like crazy for at least 4 to 5 hours. And then, what happens after that? This next one is from the House of Armaf. This is a clone of Green Irish Tweed. This is Très Nuit. This is your quintessential spicy green spring fragrance. Sweet fougere green, spring floral, woodsy type fragrance. And 2 sprays of this and you'll be good for 8 hours. Its performance is that good. I remember one time, I'm surprised they didn't call the cops on me for crimes against humanity. I think I sprayed this 3 or 4 times, and I went close quarters with someone, went over to their house, and I don't know how they sat there and smelled me with this, because this was screaming in their face. I mean, it is such a strong performer. It really is unbelievable. One of the strongest performing fragrances I've ever seen. Up next, new addition, we have Cristiano Ronaldo's Legacy. Notice 3 out of these 4 have been sub $30 fragrances. It's kind of crazy. So this one is a great fragrance, Eau de Parfum. It is manly, musky, but it has this top note of maple sap, which makes it a tad bit cloying, I'm sure, for some. Sweet and syrupy. I said jupe-esque in another video, and I meant it. But not annoying, I don't think. Honestly, I think it's one of the best fragrances you can buy for its price point. But I was testing out, as I typically do, these fragrances for projection. Every new fragrance I have, I test for performance and projection. And I spray on the pulse points, and then I also spray on the back of my hand. And I can't even tell you what other 3 fragrances I was wearing, because this beat all of them. I sprayed on the back of my right hand. 2 showers later, I could still smell it. Like 14 hours later, I could still smell it. It was unbelievable performance. This next one is from Lattafa. This is Honor and Glory. Mentioned this before. This is one that I have scrubbed, and I said, get this off of me. I'm sick of smelling it. And that's another thing, is I typically spray clothes a lot too. So when I'm done smelling it, I can just change. That helps me a lot. But this right here is one of those 2, quote-unquote, 2 strong fragrances. You gotta get accustomed to how to spray this, because it comes on strong, man. It comes on strong. This is a pineapple brulee, sweet, sweet, sweet fragrance. And again, a under $30 fragrance that is just absolutely killer. It's amazing. It's an amazing fragrance. Chaos Fragrances did a video like this, and it really boggled my mind, because the stuff he said was stuff that I considered some of the worst performing fragrances. And he's one of those makes money. I'm sure he's got some deals. I'm sure he has some companies watching him, maybe that they've given money. He has to, promote certain products, and then he also has his affiliate codes. So the more expensive fragrance you go and buy, the more money he gets. It kind of shocked me, to be honest, the fragrances he listed, because they were not good performing fragrances, and I don't think I saw anything from this list on there either, which is just amazing to me. Next, from the house of Armaf, we have the best performing line from Armaf. Très Nuit is good, but this is Club de Nuit, and this is Untold. But what I should have gotten was Club de Nuit is intense, but I've featured that in so many videos lately, I wanted to change the pace. This is a clone of Baccarat, not 540 Baccarat. This is the most experience I've had with Baccarat as a whole, just because it was against my will. I sprayed this, and it lasted 3 days on clothes. Every time that I wore this hoodie, or I can't remember what it was, like a jacket or a hoodie or something, I could smell Baccarat. It's amazing. Club de Nuit, I wore it out one time for 6 hours, and it smelled like I just sprayed it. The projection was incredible. I made the mistake of spraying it and lying in bed one time, and that time was like 4 or 5 days ago, and my bed still smells like Club de Nuit Intense. I mean, it is the greatest performing fragrance that I have ever seen. Projection's killer, performance killer. There's one other on this list that might beat it, and I'll be sure to talk and tell you about that one when I come to it, but this Club de Nuit line is killer. Untold, Sillage, Milestone. They're incredible, incredibly performing, good performing fragrances now. I want to make something very clear so far in this designation. These are not fragrances that I wear a lot of. These are not expensive fragrances. Ambre Sun I might never wear again. Cristiano Ronaldo I've worn once. I've had Honor and Glory over a year, and I've worn it once. It's gotten a lot better, as it's said, but these are not my favorite fragrances. Très Nuit I've probably worn the most, but these are not my favorite fragrances. And this is not a list of expensive fragrances, it's just fragrances in my hundreds of fragrances that I've worn. These are the best performers. Not to say that they're bad, but you have to be able to appreciate fragrances for their certain characteristics, even if you don't like them. And I have one just sitting on the table here, Insurrection 2. I love this Pure Havana cologne. I sprayed it 5 times on me, and I couldn't even smell it after 20 minutes. It's garbage. It's garbage, man. If something is not performing well, it's garbage, unfortunately. I'm gonna try to find a way to make it work, but that's the thing, man. If you are not able to wear your fragrance project, that could be why you're not getting comments. If people can't smell it, they're not gonna know you even have it on. Next, from Lattafa, you have Khamrah. Either will do. This will last you on clothes at least 2 days. No, when I say that at 2 or 3 days, I'm not saying it's just like you sprayed it, but spray it on clothes, change. Next time you grab for that, you're gonna smell it again. It's not gonna be this huge scent bubble around you. But it's gonna be good, and you're gonna know it's there. Boozy, rich, complex, coffee, butterscotch, boozy. Very, very good. And honestly, I've had the hardest time getting Gourmand boozy fragrances to do well even from a note standpoint, but from a designer standpoint, I feel like those designers hold back a lot on those particular types of fragrances. So it's just very uncommon to find a gourmand, boozy style fragrance that performs like that. It's very rare. Next, from the house of Armaf, this is one that I don't like, but I have to put it on here for fairness sake. This is Craze. When I got this, it was all the craze, if you want to say. It was everybody was buying this up, talking about this. This is a cologne of Pegasus by Parfums de Marly. Is it a good fragrance? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not an aromatic guy. I'm not an oriental guy. This is oriental aromatic fragrance. So, but this thing is so strong that people call it the headache machine. It is a headache maker in a bottle. It is intense, intense, intense. Easily 10-12 hour fragrance. It's unbelievable. But yeah, that's Pegasus cologne, to which there's been quite a few Pegasus colognes. I'm gonna get one more cheap one out, then we'll get into some more expensive fragrances. This is from Milestone Ambre. I can't remember who owns Milestone Ambre, but I'm pretty sure it's like off and on or bigger company. But this is Tobacco Touch. But you can say the same for all of their Tom Ford clones. Their Tom Ford clones are killers. This vanilla note has lasted me 3 days before, and it's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. This is a $20 fragrance, and it's lasted me 3 days off of 2 sprays. This is Tobacco Vanille fragrance. Amplifies the vanilla and tobacco. It's just kind of hanging out, and whenever it dries, you get much more of the vanilla than the tobacco. But they have Tuscan leather, they have bitter peach, they have a couple of them that I've never tried before, but I'm about ready to try their Parfums de Marly line clone that they have as well, because I want to see if they have the same performance as the Tom Ford clones. Okay. That is the best cheapies, although I did it kind of I definitely wouldn't call Born in Rome Intense a cheapie. But other than that one, these fragrances under $40, untold might be $50, but depends, obviously. Let's get into some. I have one more designer. Actually, no, let's go niche. Let's go niche, and then I'll finish on that one. From the house of Mancera, I can pretty much say anything, and it would probably be true, but this one is red tobacco. The performance on this thing is insane. Clinically insane. And if you want to hear something funny, shocking, and appalling, they made an intense version of this. This is a 8 to 12 hour fragrance performing monster. And they said, let's make it more intense. No, let's not. This is a 1 or 2 spray for the original. I can't even imagine having the intense. But this is cherry and tobacco. Smells like a cigar lounge. And it is one of the best performing fragrances on the market, especially in the niche market. Niche has a little bit more playing room, though, I feel like. Designer houses design their fragrances to go away in a few hours. And niche just don't, they want to stand out, so I think they try to make a more lasting impression. But let's get a couple of these from Parfums de Marly out. I picked the top 2 performing fragrances that I've tried from them. This is Cologne. Cologne is a killer performer. This is a spice, pepper-based fragrance. Chili usage. Just trying to figure it out. This lasted well over 24 hours on me, and that was with one spray. So the Cologne is not a safe blind buy, and it really is showcasing the niche part of Parfums de Marly. I've heard some people argue that Parfums de Marly is not even like a niche house anymore because a lot of their fragrances have been designed lately to be mass appealing fragrances. Like Altair is definitely one of those more mass appealing fragrances. And then, of course, the niche community gets upset because they're like, this isn't niche. And then the designer community isn't happy either because it's still niche prices, but they like it. And they don't like niche fragrances. That's just weird. It's just weird. This next one is from the house of Parfums de Marly again, and this is probably the best performer, I think, and it doesn't get the love that it deserves. I think part of the reason is because it's a cologne, but this is Galloway. This is the green Irish tweed of the Parfums de Marly world. This is a green, energetic. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It actually, right off the top notes, smells a little bit like green Irish tweed. It's definitely not a cologne or anything. I don't want to give that impression. It's a cologne of white, Lalique white. But it smells an awful lot like that green Irish tweed kind of DNA. And the dry down's very different from green Irish tweed. Green Irish tweed is a very spicy dry down. This is not. This has no spice just about to it, but this is a fragrance that had lasted me 2 days. And I say what I will about how much I love Leighton. Leighton has never gotten me that far. Neither has any other Parfums de Marly fragrance, but for some reason that one does. And you always gotta factor in skin and body chemistry too. Sometimes fragrance is gonna be more receptive, or your body's gonna be more receptive. However you wanna look at that. But this last fragrance is, oh man, this last fragrance. What can I say about this thing? This thing is one of the biggest performing monsters that I have ever seen. Between this and Club de Nuit Intense are the best performers that I've ever seen on a fragrance. Again, like, irrespective of how you feel about them, you might say, I don't like the fragrance. It's still one of the best performers, and if you don't like the fragrance, the fact that it is one of the best performers will become very clear to you very quickly. Because if you don't like the fragrance, you don't want it to be on you. And a good performer will stay on for a long time. This is from the house of YSL, and this is Y Elixir. This is 2 ounces, $180, insanely expensive fragrance. What you have in this is sweetness, citrus, geranium, floral notes. It is an incredibly intense concentration of Y-Men. And this fragrance is another one of those that you can smell 10 hours later and it'll smell like you just sprayed it. I went to Ulta the first time I ever tried this. I went to Ulta and sampled it, and it beat everything. I did the same thing, test on skin since it's multiple fragrances. This beat out everything, and 10 hours later, it was so intense that I was like, this is crazy. I had to go out and I had to buy it. I spent too much money, but that and Club de Nuit Intense are the most intense, greatest performers consistent but last forever. All of these. So, none of these fragrances are going to be skin scents. None of these fragrances are going to be like this, that you have to reapply, and honestly, that can get you in trouble. Sometimes you go nose blind too. You don't even realize how strong it still is. You reapply, and you start making everyone around you sick. But man, it's a blessing and a curse. Some of these fragrances. Number one, you get what you pay for. With or not get what you pay for. You get your money's worth out of all of them, because 1 and 2 sprays and you're done for days. But 1 or 2 sprays and it's on you for days. I mean, there are negatives to that as well, especially if you don't like the fragrance. But these are my top 13 best performing fragrances. Like I said, fragrance performance doesn't know dollar amounts. I don't think any single one of these was an extrait concentration either. A lot of these were eau de parfums. So, does not know concentration, doesn't know any of those things. You can't tell what the performance is just by looking at it or reading the concentration. It really does depend on the fragrance. I could have put replicas in here too, and those are EDTs. So, it just depends on so many factors. But these things right here, absolutely killer. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Until then.